Isn't it funny how everyone says that everyone's favorite topic to talk about is themselves, but then why is everyone so bad at job interviews? Seriously, you have been living your own life for however many years. You know your resume better than anyone. And yet, the second someone asks you to walk them through a specific situation at work, suddenly you are blanking, rambling, or giving an answer so vague, it tells me literally nothing. And on the other side of the table, it really isn't that much better. People with years of management experience are sitting down to hire for one of the most important roles on their team, and they are, in all essence, just winging it. They're asking whatever comes to mind and often decide based on gut feeling and charisma. So there is a reason this keeps happening, and there is a fix. So let's talk about it. Whether you are the one hiring or the one looking for a job, this video is going to change how you think about interviews. We are going deep on emotional intelligence, structured interviews, and the STAR method. Then we'll walk through an engineering director question to show you exactly how it works from both sides of the table and how you can apply this. Hi friends, I'm JP, the founder of EQ-Rated Talent. I'm a career coach and an executive recruiter for engineering and manufacturing leaders on a mission to humanize hiring. Why EQ is your most important tool. Before we talk about the plan, we have to talk about EQ, or emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is not just a soft skill. It is the filter for everything else in an interview. EQ covers 4 key areas: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. In an interview, all 4 of these are running at the same time on both sides. So, for the person hiring, EQ means 1, checking your own biases before the conversation even starts. 2, listening to understand the candidate and not just confirm what you already think. 3 is reading body language, hesitation, and energy, not just the words, because sometimes what someone doesn't say is the most useful thing in the room. And 4, staying calibrated even when a candidate surprises you. And candidates will surprise you, trust me. For the candidate, EQ means 1, knowing your own story, including the hard parts, and owning it, because nobody is handing out gold stars for a highlight reel, and the people across the table have made mistakes too. 2, staying present and regulated under pressure, which is exactly what an interview is designed to test, whether you realize it or not. 3, reading the room. Are you actually in the conversation, or are you running your internal teleprompter while a real human sits right across from you? And 4, asking questions that show you are thinking about the role and not just auditioning for it. Talent Smart, which has surveyed over 1 million people on this, found that EQ is the strongest predictor of how well someone performs at their job, accounting for 58% of success across all job types. For leadership roles, that number is even higher. This is not just a feel-good concept, it is a real way to measure performance. The case for structured interviews. Now, let's talk about structure. Most people like a casual conversation because it feels natural. But that is exactly the problem. When interviews are just a free-flowing chat, we end up defaulting to pattern matching. We hire people who remind us of ourselves, who went to schools we recognize, who interview the way we have been conditioned to reward. Think of it like a coat that is too big for the person wearing it. You don't want a one-size-fits-all hiring plan. You want something made to measure for the role. A 2016 meta-analysis published in the Journal of Applied Psychology confirmed what researchers had suspected for decades. Structured interviews predict job performance roughly twice as well as unstructured ones. Being structured just means asking everyone the same questions and using a fair, consistent way to grade the answers. This is not just extra paperwork, it is about being fair and making better decisions. So, there are 3 things that make an interview structured. 1, the same questions are asked of every candidate for the same role. This is so no one misses the chance to talk about something relevant just because the conversation went a different direction. 2, questions are tied to specific competencies, aka the actual problems this role exists to solve. And 3, responses are evaluated against a predefined scoring rubric, the same one every time, so you're comparing people to the role instead of each other. And here's what people miss. Consistency does not mean rigidity. You can still probe, follow up, go deeper. In fact, I encourage it. But your anchor questions stay the same. Every candidate gets the same starting line. STAR and why behavioral questions win. You have probably heard of STAR. You know what it stands for: situation, task, action, and result. But I want to break down not just what it is, but why it actually works on both sides of the table. So like I said, STAR stands for situation. What was the context? Set the scene. T, task. What was your specific responsibility in that moment? A, action. What did you do? Not the team, not your manager, you. And R, result. What actually happened? Quantify it if you can. So, the reason this works goes back to a core principle in behavioral psychology. Past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. Industrial psychologist Dr. Tom Yance established this framework in the 1980s, and it has been backed up by decades of research since. So instead of asking, what would you do? We ask, what have you actually done? Hypothetical questions let people describe their ideal selves. Behavioral questions, however, show you who they actually are. So, for interviewers, here is what to listen for in a STAR answer. 1, is the situation specific, or are they keeping it vague for a reason? Are they hiding any gaps? 2, in the task, are they saying I, or are they hiding behind we the whole time? In the action, is there actual leadership behavior, influencing, deciding, navigating something hard, or just a list of things that happened? And then for result, is it real and measurable, or did they just kind of trail off as they were explaining it? So for candidates, here's how to use STAR without sounding like a robot. So first, practice your stories beforehand, but do not memorize them word for word. 2, lead with the tension or the stake, and fill in context. You don't want to bury the good stuff. Start strong. So name your result first if it is strong. For example, we cut time to hire by 40%, and here's how. And then lastly, be honest about where things did not go perfectly. EQ points come from reflection, not a flawless record. Let's make it real. A director of engineering at an automation-driven manufacturing company. Here's the question. Tell me about a time you had to get operations, production, and the business side to agree on an engineering decision they pushed back on. How did you handle it, and what happened? A director level isn't just managing engineers. They are sitting between the technical reality on the floor, the production targets leadership is accountable for, and the business's needs to ship on time. Getting people to move together when they have completely different incentives, that is the job. And this is the question that goes right at it. So what do I listen for? The situation. Are the stakes actually director level? For example, a single line stoppage is a supervisor problem. A decision that affects safety, throughput, and a product launch timeline at the same time, now that is a director problem. So for the task, are they owning the outcome, or are they just describing a meeting that they attended or were a part of? For the action, did they try to understand the pushback before countering it? Did they bring people along or just wait it out? Did they name what other people were afraid of, not just what they wanted? And then lastly, in the result, I'm looking for something measurable, relationships that survive the decision, and some actual reflection on what they would do the same or differently. So when I'm looking at an answer, here is the kind of strong answer I'm listening for. We were 8 weeks out from a major line expansion, and my team flagged that one of the new automated cell installations had a sensor gap. Nothing catastrophic, but under certain load conditions, it created a risk we weren't comfortable with. Fixing it right meant a 3-week delay. Operations and the VP of production did not want to hear that. Before I got everyone in the same room, I talked to each of them separately, because a group conversation when stakes are that high usually just becomes people defending their position in front of an audience. With operations, I led with what a floor incident would actually cost them. Downtime, investigation, the whole thing. With the VP of production, I framed it as a schedule risk. Either way, delay now on our terms or delay later on much worse ones. I came in with options, not an ultimatum. Run as is with a manual monitoring protocol or revisit post-launch. Delay the full 3 weeks, or we could do a targeted fix on the highest risk zone only. Giving people real choices changes the whole dynamic. Suddenly, they're problem solving with you instead of just reacting to you. So in the end, we went with a targeted fix. We delayed by 9 days, there was no incident on the line, and the operations lead told my manager it was the first time he'd felt like engineering actually understood what was at stake for his team. Now, what made that strong? The tension was real and the stakes were at director level. The action showed actual emotional intelligence, individual conversations, framing by audience, options instead of demands. And lastly, the result was measurable. And best, there was a genuine reflection at the end, not just, it all worked out. So if you're going to be giving an answer, you have 2 to 3 minutes. Make the most use of that time. Tell your story and tell it right. Predefining ideal answers and the scorecard. Here's a mistake I see constantly. Someone asks a question, hears the answer, and then decides whether it was good. That's backwards. If you figure out what a great answer looks like after you've already heard it, you're not really evaluating the candidate against the standard. Before anyone sits down, the hiring team needs to write out what a great answer actually contains for every question. What does an exceptional answer have in it? Then a solid one. Then a mediocre one. Now, when the candidate finishes talking, you're not asking yourself, did I like that? You're asking whether specific things were present or not. That's a much more honest conversation to have with yourself. Pro tip, use a real problem. Before you lock in your question set, go back to your own team and ask, what was the hardest thing someone in this role dealt with in the last year? Where did things almost go sideways? What kept the last person in the seat up at night? Then let the answer guide which question you pull. You're not wondering anymore whether they can handle your environment. You are watching them walk through it before they're ever on the payroll. So for candidates, this is also exactly why you should always ask, what is the biggest challenge facing the team right now? If they tell you, your examples should speak directly to it. You are not just answering a question, you are showing them you've already been thinking about the work. To wrap it all up, EQ is a performance metric. It goes both ways. Structured interviews exist for a reason. Behavioral questions cut through the performance, define great before you hear it, and use your real problems to build your real questions. If this helped you even a little bit, share it, because someone in your network is about to bomb in an interview or hire the wrong person and you could have stopped it. Drop a comment below because I read every single one and I will absolutely respond, and subscribe because we do this every week and it only gets better from here. Okay, bye. See you in the next one.